Everyone. I think my other colleagues are joining here as we speak, but I'll jump in and go ahead and welcome you to this informational webinar with the Architectural League and Construction Workers United, an initiative of the Workers' Justice Project. I'm Jacob Moore, Executive Director of the Architectural League, and I'm joined by my colleague Andy Klemmer from our Board of Directors and by Eduardo Castañeda and Armary Perez from the Workers' Justice Project. We'll each be making short presentations, keeping our cameras on as we move between speakers, and we'll hold time for questions at the end. We expect the webinar to last about 30 minutes. A note that we are recording this so that we can post it for asynchronous viewing on the Architectural League website. Please, as I think they said just in the chat now, please utilize the Q&A function for questions. And a reminder that they are archived, so even if we're running short on time, please do get your questions in and we'll work to answer them after the fact directly with you. And finally, though we will be discussing rights afforded on job sites during this webinar, please note that none of what follows should be considered legal advice. But please do check out the work of many of our allies, more on that later, if you're looking for that kind of information. There's a lot of great resources that we're going to hope to share. So just by way of introductions, the Architectural League of New York is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting transformative work in the allied fields of the built environment. In practice, you can go to the next slide, Zoe. There we go. In practice, that means we bring people together around a range of public programs and initiatives geared toward the students, professionals, and publics imagining, designing, building, and maintaining the built world around us. That all of those tasks are very difficult, and the League aims to help people stick with that difficulty because doing it right, centering public over private interests, matters so much to our communities. So I'll pass it to Armary and Eduardo to introduce a little bit about the Workers' Justice Project.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Armary Perez from the Workers' Justice Project. And before we dive into today's discussion, we want to briefly introduce our organizations and the work that we do. The Workers' Justice Project was founded in 2010 as a New York City workers' center dedicated to educating, organizing, and fighting for better conditions and social justice in workplace. We focus on organizing low wages immigrant workers who are on the front lines of raising workplace standards across the three industries. It's construction, house cleaning, and app-based delivery. And within WJP, Construction Workers United, or CWU, specifically organize and advocates for day laborers and low-wage immigrant workers in New York City in construction industry. Our work is comprehensive and multifaceted, and we are preparing the next generation of builders in New York through several critical services, delivering effective, culturally competent health and safety trainings under the local law 196, raising the wage floor for day laborer through direct negotiation with employers, operating a hiring hall that connects day laborers with employers and opportunities for them, and connecting workforce development with essential workers' protections. At our core, we believe that every worker, regardless of immigration status, deserves dignity, safety, and fair treatment on the job. That's why we are here today, and that's what drives everything we do. And the next slide, please. Why are we here? Next. Thank you. Today's conversation is rooted in a priority we all share: ensuring compliant, safe, and orderly job sites in a shared responsibility that protects construction workers. When every site is safe and well managed, it honors the hard work and dignity, not only of every worker, but also of their families and our communities. Next. Recent federal legislation and court rulings pose serious challenges to our commitment to work safety. These policies create fears and uncertainty among many communities, but especially among immigrant construction workers who are vital to our industry and often faces the greatest risk. That this is why enhancing information, sharing and planning are more critical than ever. We need to frame and discuss these issues in terms of ensuring that both workers and employers know their rights with regard to immigration requirements, and more importantly, know how to exercise those rights, particularly in the context of what are too often unlawful worksite rates practices. Together, we must build workplaces where every worker feels valued, secure, and respected. That's why we have been brought together allied professional perspective today to explore how we can help protect our workers and strengthen our industry during these challenging times. Eduardo, next.
And there we go. Given these uncertain times, we've come together as two organizations from different backgrounds. And although we come from different backgrounds, we have these shared values, and we share the common question of how can we help workers during these uncertain times. At the league, the league understands they have the mission of supporting, as Jacob said, critically transformative work across allied fields of the built environment. And the league understands that there's nothing more transformative that can happen without strong support from the work happening directly on sites. Finding creative and impactful ways for that allyship to meet this moment is a core part of what they strive to do. Similarly, here at WJP, or Workers' Justice Project, we carry a similar vision. Our belief is simple, but necessary, in that every worker deserves to feel valued and protected, and that safety is the foundation of dignity on the job. And that's why we're here. We're here to put those beliefs together in action, not only by raising awareness, but also by guiding leaders as yourselves on how to keep workers safe during these times. And that's why the league, in partnership with the league, we've developed the leadership and action document that we'll be sharing in the chat shortly. And this document is meant to be a tool for leaders like you all to learn how to better protect workers at job sites. And it's meant for leaders across, such as contractors, architects, just everyone involved in a management role. And just given the increased ICE enforcement that's been happening in the country and at job sites, I encourage you all to just please take some time to review the document in depth, review the sources on that document that will dive deeper into the subjects of worker rights, identifying valid pardon me, how to identify safe zones for workers during ICE raids, and how to better protect workers through clear signage, having controlled entry as well. And I think the most important piece here is the signage, because that's going to lead to a basis for protection for workers in future cases. And yeah, just having a written ICE response, having a plan is essential for teams to respond during these ICE raids. Again, please review the document that will be shared in detail, so that together we can have a greater impact. And I'll pass it on to Jacob.
Great. Thanks, Armary and Eduardo. Yeah, Damasi is sharing the link for that Leadership in Action one-pager in the chat. And he can also share a link to a shared resources Google Doc that we've been working on, that this Leadership in Action one-pager is actually also included within. So as Armary and Eduardo have pointed to, as federal immigration enforcement intensifies, our hope is that many built environment professionals are keen to keep workers in the industries as safe as possible. So this non-exhaustive list that you have the link for there, that we've been putting together with WJP and CWU, but also with other partners, Helm Construction Solutions, New Frameworks, Terremoto, and Topofaila, across the country, is meant to provide resources and connect interested parties broadly in support of this effort. So this is a growing list. Please do reach out. There's an email address included therein. If you have a resource you want to share, we're eager to add it. Let us know if you have any comments or questions about that. So then we'll move on to the main point of today's info session, which is a request for proposals that we're putting under the banner of the sign and line. So Damasi can add the PDF of that RFP to the chat. But with this RFP, we are seeking three things. We have three goals. One, as Armary pointed out, we're all aligned on desiring maximally compliant, safe, and orderly workplaces. Perhaps it goes without saying, but for good architecture to get done, job sites have to be well run. And this requires orderliness, safety, and teams of managers and workers that are both informed and respected. So the context that Armary and Eduardo laid out earlier with recent legislation and judicial rulings puts this compliance, safety, and orderliness at risk. The next thing we're looking for is more clarity regarding public and private spaces on work sites. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to read a little bit from a memo put out by the New York Office of the Attorney General. In it, they say, which is also linked from the Google Doc that I shared earlier. In it, they say, ICE can enter the public space of your workplace without any permission or warrant. A public space is where members of the public are generally permitted. For example, public spaces include the publicly accessible areas of supermarkets, retail stores, and restaurants, as well as building lobbies. It goes on to say, ICE cannot legally enter a private space of your workplace without a judicial warrant or your employer's permission. A private space is an employees only area where members of the public are generally not allowed. This protection applies also to the private spaces in factories and on farms. Typical private spaces include private offices, break rooms, storage rooms, and back-of-house kitchens. Indicators that a space is private may include posting of private signs, locked doors, and policies that state that visitors and the public cannot enter those spaces without permission. Next slide, please. So with such a loose definition of public and private areas, and with construction sites that range from small kitchen renovations to open landscapes to urban skyscrapers, where doors or fences aren't consistently available, demarcations, we see both a need and an opportunity for all job sites to clearly articulate this threshold. So hence the name, not only a sign, but a sign and the line. And there are lots of organizations independently pursuing work protection, the work of several of whom we've referenced actually in the partnership on that Google Doc that I pointed to before, and some of their work is represented here in these signs. And insofar as possible, this partnership between WJP and the League, we've come together to try and lend our collective resources and assist in linking up, succinctly articulating, and creatively deploying a more unified version of these signs, which are ultimately about more than just sharing information, which leads me to the third goal of the RFP. Thanks. For those who imagine, design, build, and maintain the built environment, they have so much to gain by standing together rather than apart. Admittedly, this kind of allyship has a checkered history, but what better time than now to lean into, seek out, build out an era of solidarity. So if that's a goal, how might it be messaged? Next slide, please. I've put here an image of the red card, which I think many people will be aware of, which is both informational and symbolic. It shares very specific information about individual rights, and it signals connection to broader networks of solidarity and support. So for this project, the RFP around the sign and the line, we believe there's a similar opportunity for information and solidarity building. So if you can go to the next slide, please. The deliverable, the proposals we're seeking are, it's for a creative, clear, and replicable sign and line, which we're defining as a flexibly deployed system for marking job sites that will memorably indicate two things on sites of all sizes and types. First thing is that only employees are able to pass this point, a sign and line. All others must have permission or a judicial warrant, which they are able to show to a single designated point of contact. And that point of contact is something we would imagine could also be included in this system, perhaps on the back of the sign, but that would be for you to think through creatively. The second thing that we hope that these proposals do is, or inform, is or convey, I should say, is that those managing the job sites where they're posted are informed and stand with their workers to the full extent of the law. Next slide, please. So we expect that proposals for this sign and line will focus on language, color, typography, materiality, and ease of production. They should be at most 3-page PDFs. It doesn't need to be fully elaborated or designed. It's really, creative thinking, as we said, around language, color, typography, etc. It's an ideas RFP. They must include 1-page cover sheet that includes the title of the proposal, the full names and relevant professional experience of all team members who contributed to the proposal, and contact information for at least one team member. We encourage teams that include architects and other built environment professionals, especially, of course, those with on-site job experience, as well as graphic designers. And it's a pretty quick turnaround, but as was pointed to earlier, there's some urgency to this with the landscape of enforcement shifting under our very feet and increased intensity across the fall anticipated. So it's end of the month deadline, midnight on October 30th. Next slide, please. Winning proposals will be chosen based on creativity, clarity, and replicability across job sites of all kinds by a jury comprised of representatives from the Architectural League and Construction Workers United, and will receive a modest honorarium of $500. The production and distribution of the winning proposal will be led by the league in coordination with the winner, and is to be worked out in conversation with them, depending, of course, on what the idea is and how we might implement it. So those are the basics. We've tried to keep things pretty succinct and share as much as we can in the chat. The PDF for the RFP will be posted on our website also following this info session. This info session will be posted too. So this really unfolds over the course of the month. But having laid out all those basics, we are here and available to answer any questions that you might have. So maybe we stop sharing the screen and encourage anybody who wants to put any questions in the Q&A to do so. And yeah, just taking a look now. I don't know if there's any questions or curiosities or things that I forgot to say that Armary, Eduardo, maybe Andy want to share while we wait and see if anybody wants to submit any questions. If not, we can also defer to the questions that will come in as the PDF itself circulates. Oh, I see one popped in here. Yeah. This is a note from Jeremy Hendricks saying, not a question, but more of an emphasis on employer know your rights training being much needed. We couldn't agree more. And I guess it's a good reminder to point back to, so WJP and CWU, this is at the core of what they do. So though I gave that disclaimer at the beginning that, we're not providing legal advice here, know your rights trainings and know your rights as an employer, especially, all of that is something that WJP and CWU can be looked to for, especially in New York City. And then there's additional organizations and projects, many more that are on that Google Doc that I shared, but those are also some orgs that are working in that arena. So I couldn't agree more. I don't know if Armary, Eduardo, you want to share a little bit more about any of those resources that you all offer here locally?
I mean, we're more than happy to share additional resources for Know Your Rights for uh, within the context of New York City. I think also there might be some slight differences between because of state laws, but usually constitutional rights remain pretty much protected across states. But yeah, we're more than happy to share some additional resources apart from the ones that Jacob mentioned are mentioned on the one pager that was shared. Maybe we can
Can I add
we can get an
something?
email.
I think one of the goals of this program is that there are a number of groups like CWA that are doing this work all around up and down the Hudson River, East Coast, West Coast. Jacob even in touch with people across the United States. If we do this well and we do this intelligently, this could be a unifying message. So we'll start it locally, but we really hope that this catches on. We have contacts that are quite broad reaching. We're hoping that we'll come up with something that's intelligent, that's recognizable, but that it will also be shared by a lot of people with the same goals, everybody approaching it a little bit independently, and to take bring some of that independence together into a common voice. So people know, people who share these beliefs and share this concern can join one movement, one recognizable movement. Just that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I hope the red card was an illustrative example in that respect, where it's something that's quite specific, but signals, it reads in different contexts, and it's part of a broader movement, and we see an opportunity, similar opportunity here. And I also just want to make a reference to Lauren Wolfong in the Q&A has suggested that Know Your Rights presentations could be done in conjunction with the distribution of the signs. I think it's a great idea. I think, we'll see what proposals come in and what kind of partnerships we generate to figure out how they are made and distributed and broadly with respect to what Andy was just saying. But I think that all kinds of really valuable programming and information sharing could be appended to them, to that project. And at the core of all of it is knowing what rights are afforded by the law as it stands and making sure that is shared as specifically and widely as is possible. Okay, well, we'll leave it with that for now. Like I said, all this will be posted. All the docs are available via our website. And we know this will unfold over the course of the month. But maybe I'll let Armary, Eduardo, if you have any closing words to say, or Andy, before we sign off.
Thank you so much for being here, for supporting this idea, and together we can do the best to protect our community. Thank you all for being here.
Great. Thank you all very much again for joining, for supporting this work, and we'll look forward to seeing what comes in over the course of the month. Thanks a lot.